that light was within them, not us without that transmutation. And before strung out the strings of the ecstasis of Z, your form, the Logos who never learned Greek dance, who looked at my feet shyly and foolishly, later in the mirror where always you recover the bodies of yourself you throw away, decomposing like the inertia of the ether into vortices of spiral stairwells or gyres where violent Baconian women whirl into a resolution of titters of violets suddenly found on the surface of your wine. 2. Our plumage, that instant together, bowing as all the poor do, who own nothing, so emphatically still as standing there, blue and phoenix, the second finish. We were quill and ink, and the étude was the silence after Z, in which nothing anymore would be put on. Now I'm going to read, and again, please remind me when half hour is over. I'm going to read, I'll speak a minute of this. 42 years ago, I wrote a book about the Vietnamese people during the Vietnam War. 16 years ago, I lost the last typescript. On December 12th, the day before my birthday, this past December, my biographer, Alessandra Sachabava in Rome, sent me a gift. She found this book in the typescript in a small library in Pennsylvania. It's a long story of how it got there. I'm not going to go into it. But I've worked for a month and a half, crossing out lots of things. Lots of things happened in 40 years, to me also, and as well as to Vietnam. And now it's 36. It's 36 sections with a prelude, a prologue. I'm going to read 2 sections tonight from it. You'll get a sense. It's based on a voodoo sect, a Vietnamese voodoo sect called, based on religion, Dao Mao, the worship of the mother goddesses, and its ritual is called Len Dong. When I wrote the book, there was one group. It was banned during the war in Vietnam. Now there are 11 temples in Northern California, in the Silicon Valley, near San Jose. I was part of a Len Dong ceremony in San Francisco some years ago, and it was extraordinary. You'll get a sense of it with a couple of things that I'm writing here and then going to read. I'm just going to read a couple of sections from it. Each section is named after a part of the city of Hanoi. There are 36 sections in that city. This is called, this is the second section called Hamper Street. I said, she. I say as well my brother, where I find him in the world outside the impossible atom we're imprisoned in. Sublime with revolutionary ideas, shaking hands made of radicals and hieroglyphs, the blood of the trees of brotherly love. Philadelphia, where Joseph Morone published Vocabulary of the Cochin Chinese Language, the same year as Isaac Meyer's Kabbalah. Bongri, Nangri, the paper flower sorceries written in snowflakes and rice grains, in which, in the past, only the Kabbalist and the butterfly and the tail of the horse at the phalanx of Fourier's heaven could read the face of earth through and through. Now, well known, this woman medium steadily attends to the incense and flowers at the opening of Lendang, and the tears from the war dried on the stave of life become streams again and speak of the trees nudging against the banks made of human bodies and shrapnel, and hear hills whisper to each other again, and delta to delta, the feminine tender press of soft grape skin under the eyelids of everyone asleep or awake. Wisdom's doves flutter out of her ears. She comes out of the cold waterfall and does the rowing dance. Koan, koan, ho, koan, rowing and rowing, rocking up and down with the schools of fish where the word for country is the same word for water. Hummingbirds of voltage nim her amber-toned gestures. A singer intones the 6 tones of one word, shak. Tambourine and flute accompany the whirling air and the movement of us all along the thoroughfares that separate at the southern gate and encircle the entire city like the skin of a cell pulsing with the lesson of the protoplasm that is Ha-Noi. And this is the 10th section, Shoe Alley. So I have risen, soared a whirl in my dance for you, Tran Hong Dao. Has occurred the moment when our hearts shine most. We burn our bodies to make our truth most luminous. They killed our buffalo. They tied me up and whipped me. They hung me by my wrists. They poured soapy water down my throat. After I ate, they stood on my stomach. They electroshocked my nipples, ears, and brain. They put iron pincers to my thigh. They put me in a hole up to my neck. I was tied to a pylon on a road. They threw my mother into a pond and she drowned. They took me to a movie house and tied me to a seat and rubbed my thighs with rifle cartridges. They set a German shepherd upon me. They put me in a room with 4 men who ripped my trousers and panties off and stuck a hot iron into my rectum. Pus oozed out and dirt got into my wounds. Tran Ti Kien was captured and they stuffed glass into her vagina before she died and admitted she was me. They cut my body into 100 pieces. I was put into a jute bag and they threw me into a field and put scorpions in the bag. And even though they'd already killed me many times over, they fired bullets into the bag, and at every living being they saw, "Oh, Tan Mao, may our tigers and snakes mount the mediums, so when the beasts of evil invade the temple of Dao Mao, they'll be met by the growls and venom of our defending resistance." I've sat in the seat to write the names of all the spirits in our beloved pantheon of defiance. We burn our bodies to make our truth most luminous. Now I'm going to read some poems, an arcane, a couple of arcanes. And if there's time, I'll read the third. This is called Aida La Fuente Arcane. You'll understand who that woman is when I read it. 1. Fragile window pane. In my infancy, the 1934 hurricane, a big red leaf got blown onto. I tell the Basque beret in the silence between my legs. Work on permutations. The sun, a flaming song inside 16-year-old communist Aida La Fuente. They build a bridge she dreamed of blowing up in the centerfold of tomorrow's paper. The way Aida, in a blaze of a red dress behind a machine gun, mowed down a squad of fascists before the Civil War had even begun and Spain was attacked by Franco's counter-revolution. She took a bullet in her breast. I never cried. There's no sentiment, only a long curse at the rotten beasts as they miced upon her body, and more horribly as they shat, and it turns cold outside. Inside the death soon of Lorca as well, the Honda motorcycles through rabbit hutches of an afternoon, dreaming a new Asturias, too. It's 17 what's between me and the bulb of the sun you are, Guernica. There's only the cell now, each one in his or hers. A thumb of prose is down on the word, like pinching a cigarette in a blue ashtray. Dry, long so death, no thing without a reason, nobody with me for a year in solitary. I fell into a worm. I eked and worked on my knees. I couldn't help myself. I made up lines to greet myself when I woke from sleep. Only perhaps a child's recognition, an invasion of life in spite of myself, not as a need, but as a reminder of what the natural in nature was before I began writing obituarily. Viva la muerte, I heard cried in the crowd around the vagina they were spitting black cumin seeds into, those putrid, hee-hawing asses. I don't care if careless and reckless rule. Chaos cayuses me, and the yellow rose bleeds. She saw the people's enemy and wrote in beautiful sprays of the bullet's bloody ink the Aida Festo of Aida Le Fuente Presente. This one is called, is a play on Rilke's word, and Heidegger's also, Dasein, which D-A-S-E-I-N, from meaning existence. I play on it as da, and then Zion, not Zionist, Zion, more like in the Psalm of David, you know the song, Babylon and Zion. The Dasein arcane, one. That today, non-existence is superior to existence, and one should live therefore on the way out. Because we've arrived at where anything may fall or drop in on anyone. We walk in shallow light, and our time is ticked off. Nothing holds anything anymore, and anywhere is sand. It's true, the will to power leads to the crown of nothing on the head of philosophy. To wake and no longer hear the call of the page before me, but rather see a computer screen. Next to nothing is where the movement is. I can't find anything that isn't irrelevant, because filled with terror taken for granted. I woke to find the page was over. I repeat, the computer screens where I find the death of my history and her story belongs to the ordinateur of the future. So the terrorist who scatters us and makes us choose the abundant nothing that obsesses our banal, anal guesses, even gazes, and quadripian sunspots. And to sing terror as the word for earth is to live the distress of the terror we can't feel. 2. Once upon a tome, there was a Da, and the Da was Zion. Oh, hand, it's happened. It's really hope penned. You've heard the unhearable, and finally have begun beginning again. To burst with beginning and with a rage they've stifled, because like it or not, rage is all that love's left against the irrelevance and the inanity, even of the arcanity, when nothing is nothinging. It makes possible the memory of an event that never took place, one which had already been a gathering of raptures in time, the jointure or binding of past and future presently. I know, you know, the only yes, clear down to the essence of any named thing, spang at the heart of the art of nothinging, the only yes left is poetry. In a world eating death and thinking it's pussy, sucking death and thinking it's cock, and why hip-hop's all over the globe, Ebonic foot forward, with world peace unfurled. For the future belongs to the poets, and everyone's one, bar none. With loving kindness its foundation, no matter againsting or ranting at wars and their monster negations, no different whether songs of despair or of resistance, loving kindness shall be the mouth to ear, that's the mouth to mouth, that's the kiss of depths of the word, sounding the oral aura's charge of the brigade of light, streaming everywhere with the good news. Here comes revolution. Tell me how much time do I have? 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Oh, all right, then I will read this final
Actually,
one.
9 minutes. 9 minutes, 30.
9 minutes. Oh, it'll take about that.
Less now, 2 seconds.
Okay, all right, I'll read it. It's called The Black Chrysanthemum Arcane, and it's in memory of Charles Olson. 1. There's a jump start in the tides of poetry. Breeds there a man whose death so deepens beside the sea where when we heard he died, she wept, who never met, known, or spoken at any great length of him, yet wept like a little girl hearing a giant had been felled. Something he'd done, ground broken, or given lung to, put his finger on the secret heart of the syllable, or brought the sea closer to some like me, who went to bed one day to write the last breaths of my son David infinitely. And when they stammer in me, I've only to hear the thrum of the sea nearby, to see that tall transformer riding the sound waves home into the ear of my ink. 2. When I close my eyes, I see the page, the phrasing spaces shaped by the push of reception and the slide like illusions of mind showing the pace of the heart's beat, unfathomable down there. Or this way, he got a handle, without his fully knowing how, on the way the mind's discourse with itself, dialectically, down to the syllable as egg of the line birth, made his self be written as voice. Come here, Because now that we're left empty-handed in a space where his breaths go on in an acoustical event, this passing on of sounds and then the sounding of language off the page and out of the mouth, the jumps, springs, leaps of the long boy alive as rhythm on the move, brokenly awkward and pulled up, dangles and skirts around the corner of surprise. I mean, what the fuck does that fact have the fucking goal to do with, so come on back at me. Let me hear. Let me hear. You know it goes that way. And then straightens out its wingspan and lands on the sand, gull poise. His passions in the flux from flame to air to ether, now river-raining around us, now hovering as the Havaria speak of the Zohar of the sky and of the inmost, meaning the embrace wherein all fragments are gathered in the above within, and those below ripen into their full meaning within the circle of the ocean that frees. 3. Boy, there was no poetic. It was Charlie Parker, literally Charlie Parker. This jazz mantra we're in, which isn't us, sound extensions, the science, sweet japa sutram, sounding the inside of any phrasing or syllabling or anything moving, and no space, not felt release. Charles is the charge and impact of beginning at all points, even in the not know or not feel, hounded everywhere, as all are, by the states coming over us, by the white shit screen blocking us, sapping us, pun intended, of energy. His writings self-wrestle polemics in and against time to get the motion of space, like Neruda's La vida es el espacio en movimiento, over and across to those who needed to break out. 4. 43 years since his death, one can say with zero uncertainty, anyone spelled by his work, its sweep and largesse, feels something of his in-stressing intensity, who amid the desert that surrounds us right up to our mouths, grew like a giant sequoia torn out ruthlessly, roots and all, by a hurricane that could make a woman say, "My blood is his ink," like in a Staliniad, the way he was, the way he is, enduring in this filthy, cheap age. It was a time of ideologic finks who ratted on their brothers and sisters, and die-hard segregationists, and innocents guilty by association. And one might ask, why wasn't Charles the savior of that repulsive dog pound of American letters? So not simply not guilty through Auden's pardon, a pardon one didn't need words for. One could literally forget the war in Korea, the civil rights movement from the South, even the war in Vietnam. One had, no choice. One had a hard-on. And now its absence is neither emptiness nor nothing. You see, we're in common dust and a way of bread, a Broadway of give and take away, where the writing on the walls washed away, the blood also, and then the wall itself that was rampart to elite democracy then, and now is arising level with the eyes you see out of, coming all the way to the water's edge, out of ears rocked with sounds, across sand grains by the billions. The poem you see is what she was to him who needed to breathe, is what she's in care of, and the cure for his poems she was serene to center, who said they were so diamond hard they could cut rock, and he was taking that mind hand and turning us about to face outward and pushing us violently into the starkness, as he must have spittled his last wad out before the unseen nurse, returned with the bedpan, and my war spite, my yellow jacket, my tiger, his name for pills, as it was close to him, the hornet color of his hand, telling him as much, and a heat, a last flush, and who doesn't, whether on street or deathbed, sweat, before death comes with its cold kiss, met for the labor of love words were to him on the sheet, saying a smile, solidarity, black chrysanthemum, naming it, that is, right on, Lefty, 5. Given the sea, he needs a drink. The low sky's grown tall today. Hurry the axe and the splitters of trees. There'll be hotcakes the size of suns and telephone wires for the strumming, and let the chips fall where they may, for honored be the man who took the I am by the tail and spun it round and round till the dust was all shook out of it, and we could write as we voice ourselves in the wilderness that's our American dictionary, looking up words in leaves or grass or leaves of grass, or at the corner of a passing pedestrian's mouth, without a sense of shame that this idiom's what keeps us, heaps us in each other's heart like tinder of twigs and burning red, golden, orange to deep blue speaking flames. Now we're going to hear from a wonderful artist. I'm speaking of a painter artist. His marvelous abstractions and also figurative work too. But he's also a great saxophonist. And so we want to welcome George Long.